The history of philosophy, thinkers who shaped our world. Ever wondered who first asked, "Why are we here?" Or how ancient ideas still shape your life today? In the next 15 minutes, we're traveling through time to meet the greatest philosophers who dared to question everything and change the world forever. Welcome to episode 6 of our 10-part Philosophy Basics series, where we're diving into the thrilling history of philosophy. If you've been with us, you've explored what philosophy is, its core branches, critical thinking, the philosophy-science connection, and the tools of logic and argumentation. Today we're meeting the brilliant minds, from Socrates to Kant, who laid the foundations of how we think, argue, and live. Get ready for a mind-blowing journey. Let's jump in. So why study the history of philosophy? Philosophy isn't just a collection of abstract ideas. It's a living story of human curiosity, courage, and discovery. The thinkers we'll meet today tackled the biggest questions. What is reality? How should we live? What can we know? Their answers didn't just sit in dusty books. They sparked revolutions, shaped laws, inspired science, and still influence how you see the world, from your smartphone to your sense of right and wrong. By understanding their ideas, you'll gain a deeper appreciation for where our modern world came from and how to navigate its challenges with wisdom. Let's start at the beginning, in ancient Greece, where Western philosophy was born. Around the 6th century BCE, thinkers began asking questions that broke from myth and tradition. Instead of explaining the world through gods and stories, they used reason and observation. One of the earliest was Thales of Miletus, often called the first philosopher. Thales asked, "What is everything made of?" His answer, "Water." It sounds simple, but it was revolutionary. He wasn't appealing to divine forces. He was looking for a natural, universal substance. This shift to rational inquiry set the stage for all philosophy and science to come. Thales' student, Anaximander, took it further. He argued that the ultimate substance wasn't water but something boundless, an infinite source he called the Apeiron. Anaximander also speculated about evolution, suggesting humans descended from fish-like creatures, centuries before Darwin. These pre-Socratic philosophers, as they're called, were like intellectual pioneers, asking big questions about the cosmos without modern tools. Their ideas were bold, even if they didn't always get it right. Then came Socrates, one of the most iconic figures in philosophy. Around the 5th century BCE, Socrates never wrote anything himself, but his student Plato recorded his ideas. Socrates was a master of questioning. He believed the path to wisdom was admitting you don't know everything. His method, the Socratic method, involved asking relentless, why questions to expose contradictions in people's beliefs. For example, if someone claimed to know what justice was, Socrates would ask, "What is justice?" and keep probing until they realized their definition fell apart. This wasn't about winning arguments. It was about seeking truth through dialogue. Socrates' approach made him both loved and hated. He challenged Athens' powerful figures, questioning their assumptions about morality and politics. Eventually, this got him in trouble. Accused of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods, Socrates was sentenced to death in 399 BCE. He chose to drink hemlock rather than renounce his beliefs, showing that philosophy isn't just talk, it's a way of life. His courage and commitment to truth inspired generations of thinkers. Socrates' student, Plato, took philosophy to new heights. Plato founded the Academy in Athens, one of the first schools of higher learning. He explored almost every philosophical question: reality, knowledge, ethics, politics. His big idea was the theory of forms. Plato argued that the physical world we see, tables, chairs, people, is just a shadow of a perfect, eternal realm of forms. For example, a table is imperfect, but it reflects the perfect form of table in this higher reality. This idea sounds wild, but it's a way to explain why we recognize qualities like beauty or justice despite their variations in the world. Plato also wrote dialogues like The Republic, where characters debate big ideas. In The Republic, he imagines an ideal society ruled by philosopher kings, wise leaders trained in reason. He asked, "What is justice? Is it better to be just, even if it costs you?" These questions are still relevant. Think about debates over fairness in politics or business today. Plato's blend of imagination and logic made him a giant in philosophy, influencing everything from Christianity to modern science. Plato's student, Aristotle, was equally groundbreaking but very different. Aristotle was a practical thinker, obsessed with observing the world. He founded his own school, the Lyceum, and studied everything: biology, ethics, physics, politics. Unlike Plato, who looked to an ideal realm, Aristotle focused on the here and now. He argued that reality is what we can see, touch, and study. His big contribution was logic. Aristotle formalized the syllogism, a deductive argument structure like, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, so Socrates is mortal. This became the foundation of logical reasoning for centuries. Aristotle also tackled ethics. He believed the good life comes from finding the golden mean, a balance between extremes. For example, courage is the mean between cowardice and recklessness. His ideas about virtue and happiness still shape how we think about personal growth and leadership. Aristotle's influence is massive. He tutored Alexander the Great, shaped medieval science, and laid groundwork for the scientific method. If Plato was the dreamer, Aristotle was the doer, grounding philosophy in the real world. After Aristotle, philosophy spread across the Mediterranean. The Hellenistic period brought schools like Stoicism, Epicureanism, and skepticism. Stoics, like Zeno and later Seneca, taught that happiness comes from mastering your emotions and living in harmony with nature. They said, you can't control events, but you can control how you react. This idea resonates today in mindfulness and resilience training. Epicureans, led by Epicurus, argued that pleasure is the highest good, but not wild indulgence, simple joys like friendship and peace. Skeptics, like Pyrrho, doubted we can know anything for sure, urging humility in our beliefs. These practical philosophies helped people navigate life's uncertainties. Fast forward to the Roman era, where philosophy blended with politics and religion. Thinkers like Cicero adapted Greek ideas for Roman audiences, emphasizing ethics and public service. As Christianity rose, philosophers like Augustine of Hippo merged Plato's ideas with Christian theology. Augustine argued that human reason and faith work together to understand God and morality. His work shaped medieval thought, bridging ancient philosophy with the Middle Ages. In the medieval period, philosophy focused on reconciling faith and reason. Islamic philosophers like Avicenna and Averroes preserved and expanded Aristotle's ideas, influencing both the Islamic world and Europe. Avicenna's work on metaphysics, exploring existence and causality, became a cornerstone of later philosophy. In Europe, Thomas Aquinas synthesized Aristotle with Christianity, arguing that reason supports faith. His Summa Theologica tackled questions like, does God exist? With logical rigor, shaping theology and philosophy for centuries. The Renaissance, starting in the 14th century, reignited interest in classical ideas. Thinkers like Erasmus and Machiavelli broke from medieval dogma. Machiavelli's The Prince offered a realist take on power, arguing that effective rulers prioritize results over ideals. This was a philosophical shift toward pragmatism, influencing modern political thought. The Renaissance also set the stage for the scientific revolution, where philosophy and science intertwined. Enter the early modern period, where philosophy took a radical turn. René Descartes, in the 17th century, wanted certainty and knowledge. His famous line, "I think therefore I am," came from doubting everything except his own existence as a thinking being. Descartes' method of systematic doubt and his dualism, separating mind and body, shaped modern philosophy and science. He's often called the father of modern philosophy for his emphasis on reason and clarity. Around the same time, Thomas Hobbes took a different tack. In Leviathan, he argued that humans are naturally selfish and need a strong social contract, a government, to maintain order. His materialist view, that everything is physical, challenged religious ideas and influenced political theory. John Locke, another key figure, countered Hobbes with a more optimistic view. Locke argued that humans are born as blank slates, shaped by experience, and have natural rights to life, liberty, and property. His ideas inspired democracy and the American Revolution. The 18th century brought the Enlightenment, a golden age of reason. Immanuel Kant revolutionized philosophy with his Critique of Pure Reason. Kant argued that our minds shape how we perceive reality. Space, time, and causality aren't just out there, but are frameworks we impose. He also tackled ethics, proposing the categorical imperative. Act only according to rules you'd want everyone to follow. Kant's ideas bridged rationalism, reason-based philosophy, and empiricism, experience-based philosophy, influencing everything from science to human rights. Other Enlightenment thinkers, like Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, pushed for freedom and equality. Voltaire championed free speech and skepticism toward authority, while Rousseau argued that society corrupts our natural goodness, inspiring revolutions and romanticism. David Hume, a Scottish philosopher, shook things up with his skepticism. He questioned causality, how do we know one event causes another, and argued that reason is guided by emotions. Hume's ideas challenged dogmatic beliefs and influenced modern psychology. The 19th century brought new currents. George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel introduced a dynamic view of history, driven by conflicting ideas resolving into progress. His dialectical method, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, shaped philosophy and politics, including Marxism. Karl Marx, inspired by Hegel, argued that economic systems drive history, with class struggles leading to revolution. His ideas sparked communism and reshaped global politics, showing philosophy's real-world impact. Meanwhile, Soren Kierkegaard took an existential turn, focusing on individual experience. He argued that life's meaning comes from personal choices and faith, not abstract systems. Friedrich Nietzsche pushed this further, declaring God is dead, and urging individuals to create their own values. Nietzsche's bold ideas about power and creativity influenced art, literature, and modern philosophy, though they were misused by some later ideologies. In the 20th century, philosophy diversified. Analytic philosophers like Bertrand Russell and Ludwig Wittgenstein focused on language and logic, aiming for precision. Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus argued that philosophical problems stem from linguistic confusion, while his later work emphasized how language shapes thought. Continental philosophers, like Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger, explored existence and meaning. Sartre's existentialism stressed radical freedom. We're free to choose but responsible for our choices. Heidegger asked, what is being? Probing the nature of existence itself. Today, philosophy tackles new challenges: artificial intelligence, bioethics, climate justice. Thinkers like Peter Singer apply logic to animal rights and global poverty, while Judith Butler questions gender and identity. Philosophy remains vibrant, asking questions science alone can't answer, like, what is consciousness? Or what makes life worth living? Why does this history matter to you? Because these thinkers' ideas shape your world. Plato's theory of justice influences legal systems. Locke's rights inspired democracies. Kant's ethics guide moral debates. Even your smartphone, built on scientific advances, owes a debt to Descartes' rationalism and Aristotle's logic. Understanding this history helps you see where your beliefs come from and how to question them critically. Let's apply this to your life. Imagine you're debating a moral issue, like whether lying is always wrong. Socrates would ask you to define wrong. Aristotle might suggest a balanced approach, weighing context. Kant would insist on universal rules. By drawing on these thinkers, you can reason more clearly and defend your views with depth. Or think about a career choice. Kierkegaard's focus on personal meaning might push you to follow your passion, while Stoicism could help you stay calm under pressure. Here's a practical challenge. Pick one philosopher we've discussed, say Socrates or Kant, and apply their ideas to a problem you're facing. Maybe use the Socratic method to question a belief or Kant's categorical imperative to make an ethical choice. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how it goes. As we wrap up, remember, the history of philosophy is a story of bold questions and fearless answers. These thinkers didn't just ponder, they reshaped how we live, love, and learn. In our next episode, we'll dive into ethics, exploring how philosophy helps us decide right from wrong. If you're excited, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Drop a comment. Which philosopher's ideas resonated with you most, and why? Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in episode 7.